Right, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Dan Knight, the founder of Side Kickboxing and the former sponsor of Andrew Tate, possibly the most famous man on the planet right now. And I'm going to get stuck straight into it. How did you meet Andrew Tate?
Well, to be honest, I had my kickboxing brand, Sidekick. I was looking for sort of fighters within the circuit. Andrew Tate's sort of name was regularly popping up on the scene, sort of making a name for himself. And yeah, when I sort of saw him on Facebook, yeah, I had to sort of get in touch, really.
So you initially meet him. Can you remember your first time interacting with him and what your initial impressions were?
Yeah, he was a funny guy, he was really funny, he's sort of bit cheeky, yeah, he sort of weren't too serious. But he also at the same time he wanted work and he wanted, to earn a bit of extra money.
And a lot of people looking at him, his fans make out that he was the greatest kickboxer of all time. He's won these 4 championships, 3 whisker, and then a fourth one in infusion. And then his detractors say that he wasn't operating at the highest levels of kickboxing. So, from your perspective, how good was Andrew Tate?
Oh yeah, he's phenomenal. He was a great fighter. People that sort of downtrodden his career probably have never really done the sport in their life, and it's quite easy just to sort of go, oh yeah, he wasn't a genuine champion. But he was only fighting the people that who he could face it each time, and they were very credible to opponents. He was taking on sort of champion, sort of British level champions at sort of like 17. Remember him fighting Scott Gibson, and he was only 17. Tate was, and I think Gibson was 25 at the time in the prime of his career. He was taking big fights on, and then he sort of it was soon progressed onto an international level. No one in the UK could really touch him. Yeah, and he went sort of global.
And what was he like to sponsor? I mean, there's that famous clip that you were sharing with me yesterday about him smashing the baseball with his foot. What was he like?
He was, yeah, really good. When I started the brand, I always wanted to be different. I always wanted to be seen different. I was also prepared to take risks. I was quite creative with my ideas. Andrew was quite brave and outspoken. We used to talk and put our, thought brainstorm together and put our thoughts out there. Yeah, and we would come up with some really good sort of marketing sort of tactics, really. And Tate could be the face of them. He could front them. It was good.
Absolutely. And I mean, he continued to rep your brand. I mean, you know that he wanted to wear one of your shirts into the Big Brother house in 2016. What was that process like? Were you disappointed somewhat that he didn't end up wearing that in the house?
Well, to be honest, I sort of, as much as he sort of wanted to do it, he contacted me, I'd like to do it as part of a sort of sponsorship. I sort of knew that he couldn't do it as part of TV. I spoke with a lot of TV, companies and stuff in the past, and I know that that's something they don't allow. Brands and TV, they sort of sometimes don't go well together, as long as unless you're paying them essentially.
And watching him on Big Brother, I imagine it must have been a surreal experience for you seeing him on national TV. Obviously, he had a degree of fame within the kickboxing world. On that show, he was entertaining, he was extremely different. I know he quoted his dad, Emery Tate, and his famous sayings and all that sort of stuff. He ends up getting kicked out after a few bust ups with Marco Pierre White Jr., the son of the famous chef. So, what was it like seeing him removed from the show, and what was it like while he was on the show?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite shocked to him going on there, but well, at the same time, I wasn't really. It was sort of quite a surprise. I would Tate's going to be on sort of Big Brother, but at the same time, he wanted to get famous, and I think he knew that that would create wealth, and that was even back then. So yeah, it was quite, it's quite a shock to see him on TV at that point.
So, what meant more to him, do you think? Is it the fame? Is it the wealth? Is it the whole thing that comes together? Did he need that?
Yeah, I mean, in his kickboxing career, I think with Tate, I think, he wants to be the best at anything he does, and I think kickboxing, he got to that level. And I think he realised that the wealth weren't going to come, once you're a world champion and the wealth's not coming in, I think he needed to explore sort of different avenues, really. And I think he knew getting famous was definitely a way of doing that. So he just, yeah, try and make himself more famous, whether it be online, on TV. He just did what he had to do.
Even now, is still being linked to big fights. I know he had a couple a few years ago back in Romania, but he's been linked to the likes of Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, KSI. Would you like to see Tate back in the ring, or is that something he should leave in the past now?
Oh no, I think since he's blown up as famous as he is, I think that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Even if it'd be, it'd make probably one of the biggest numbers ever. especially with someone like Logan Paul or Jake Paul. You know, it might not be the most sort of the biggest, most exciting fight, but I think from a fan's point of view, it'd definitely be one to watch, wouldn't it? You know, let's face it. And I would like to see it, you know, a Tate comeback. But like I think he said the other day, you know, he's 36, 37 now. The time all this sort of allegation stuff gets dropped, you know, he could be knocking on 40 essentially. So, yeah, you know, we will see, I suppose.
And something that was interesting that you said to me is that his coach was never overly happy with the relationship that you two shared. Why was that?
I think back then it was quite strange because I think he might have saw the prospect in Tate himself, you know, and I suppose him working with a new brand, which I was at the time, whether it is sort of a personal perspective or it was just for the best interest of the Tate, I don't know, but I think maybe he saw that he could have been getting sponsored by big corporate companies at the time, so or maybe that, or he just didn't maybe like the fact that working with Psychic that you know because the manager handles your fights, your purses, you know, and your sponsorship agreements, and the fact that me and Tate worked together, I suppose it maybe he might have felt he was a little bit cut out from the deal, you know. So I don't know, you know, on that side of it, but I just know it put a little bit of friction between me, Tate, ourselves. But yeah, we sort of worked around it and we did what we did.
And I believe that the pair of you actually became more than business partners and actually developed quite a solid friendship. Do you have any crazy stories that you remember, maybe from nights out with Tate or anything in general?
Not really. We would just, to be honest, we would just generally have a laugh. You know, I think even though we was ultimately working together, it was just fun. You know, we was call each other up and just sort of plan a new marketing ploy. Yeah, and it'd just be the way we would sort of execute it. I think we was quite when we found it quite funny really, and it sort of didn't really make it feel like work. So that was quite nice. You know, so yeah, I always wanted to keep working with Tate until I suppose till it comes come to an end.
And Tate, somebody who was obviously born in America, moved to England, Luton specifically, and then he moved to Romania. What was that move like? Why do you think he made that?
Oh, I think that was from the webcam business. That was growing, and that was from Luton. So when that was growing, I think moving to Romania, it made it probably a little bit easier, you know, cheaper for accommodation, as long as with other things to come with it. So yeah, I think that's why he done that.
Obviously, he was such a high level kickboxer. We spoke about his incredible accolades, and it was fantastic that he was doing amazing things for your brand. But when he started doing the webcamming, that brought in money that wasn't there in kickboxing, and he started making huge amounts. And maybe that changed his values and his personality in a sense. What did you make of the webcamming business? Did you think it was seedy, and what was it like for your business? Did it have an impact?
Um, I took it. Yeah, I mean, it did for me. I mean, I didn't care that he worked with webcam. You know, if it's legal and no one's doing any harm, then it doesn't bother me. It's just another line of work. You know, it's not for me. But at the same time, it was. Yeah, I mean, with a sports brand and a sex industry, they don't really sort of collaborate too well. So, you know, but yeah, to be honest, it wouldn't bother me now. And, sponsor him now, and if you're still doing webcam, it probably wouldn't bother me. You know, I think people know the two are separate. So it's just I suppose just me just taking it personally. You know.
Yeah. Do you think it belittled his kickboxing achievements at all, or do you not think there's a link there?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, kickboxing, I mean, we all see boxers and like MMA stars, they're all making big money, and in the kickboxing, they might ultimately train just as hard as a boxer, if not more, but the rewards are not there. It's not as commercialized. If you look at like Anthony Joshua's like revenue, it's tens, probably if not hundreds of millions, where Tate was probably lucky to make 10 grand a fight, so it's just a different world. But the fight is still a fight and the training is still the same. So yes.
And then he moves on from just doing the webcam into starting his YouTube channel. He starts Hustlers University, and he has seemingly thousands of people all desperate to be like him. What was it like for you to see this incredible explosion that he experienced? And obviously, he comes out with so many outrageous statements that some people are misogynistic, other people say that he's trying to encourage men to be masculine, and that's a positive thing. And there's a real blend of opinions on this. So, what did you think of the explosion?
Well, to be honest, I mean, Tate has always been outspoken, and I mean, like the women, the misogyny, he's done it with male as well. I think Tate has had an opinion about pretty much anything. But then obviously what he's done with the men in recent years, he's changed it in a positive aspect to try and encourage them to be better. The women's situation. I mean, it's how deep do you want to take it, really? I mean, I think some of the stuff, it's not what he says, it's just how he says it. I think that's where he knows how to rev people up. So whether he ultimately believes it or not, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's why it's created this huge explosion, because it's just the shock factor, I think, that he creates.
And is the Andrew Tate we see on camera, is it the real him?
Um, in probably in modern years, since I think he's realised how influential he's got, I think that is probably more him. I mean, if you look at him over the years, I mean, he was quite sort of, cocky and arrogant when I sort of worked with him, but behind the scenes, to me, he was a really nice guy. He's funny, he's relaxed. He's not confrontational. If you saw him in a bar, he's just a nice guy. I can't say anything other than that. But the arrogance that he's put online, I think he's created that to give that shock factor. So, he started going deep with the depression and stuff. I think there's lots of different sides we see of him, but generally as a inner person, he's a nice guy. And I think he'd do a lot to help anyone, really.
In your brand, Sidekick Boxing benefited massively from his growth in popularity. Talk to me about where Sidekick is now and the development you've seen.
Oh, it's huge. The sort of the level of exposure it's getting. It would cost hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of advertising. I'm getting national TV, sort of like, I'm going to be on Channel 4 soon, screening on sort of a mainstream documentary. I've been sort of on YouTube videos getting millions of views. Every day. With articles about Tate, they're getting thousands of views a day. So it totally exploded from that side of it, and I just can't believe where it's come from, if I'm honest. It's all just from the stuff that's kept sort of in we did 10 years ago, or almost 10 years ago. So it's good to see.
Talk to me a little bit about this Channel 4 documentary. What's your involvement and do we know when that's going to go out on air?
We've been told it's going to be end of this year, so probably expect it November, December time. But obviously, yeah, I haven't been told too much of that. But no, I filmed as part of it. I think a lot of people wanted a lot of Tate's life. I think people a lot want to know how he got to where he was. And I suppose the fact that I've worked with him for a sort of a period of his kickboxing career, which is a big part of who he is, yeah, they sort of wanted to sort of ask my views on him.
Well, certainly. And obviously, Andrew comes as a pair. His brother Tristan seemingly comes with him. Did you have much of a relationship with the younger brother?
No, not really. Messaged a few times, like on Facebook. I mean, he wanted one of our T-shirts, as well, because I think that brotherly love was there. I think Andrew's being sponsored by Sidekick. I think he was, more than happy to endorse it himself. He'd send me photos of, Tristan would send photos of him wearing T-shirts, training and stuff. So, yeah, no, it's nice. So almost sponsoring Andrew. I'll get Tristan on the back of it. It was nice they done it together.
Most certainly. And obviously, Andrew Tate, he isn't detained anymore. He's out. He's doing podcasts, I think, with James English, and he's back on the circuit again. Where do we think Andrew Tate is going to be in 5 years? Do we still think he's going to have this level of fame? And also, where would you like to see Sidekick in 5, 10 years' time?
Well, I'd like to see Psychic sort of keep growing. I definitely would like it to be sort of more mainstream. Definitely, I mean, if Andrew was to fight again, I mean, I'd love to be sponsoring something on that level, because obviously how big it'd be. But no, I just want to keep growing Psychic steadily, like year after year. But yeah, I'd like it to be sort of more of a household name, definitely. And I don't know whether I'd sort of get involved with in other sports other than just combat.
And do you and Andrew still have a relationship today?
We talked, yeah. I mean, we've got each other's numbers. We sort of messaged briefly. I sort of messaged him the other day about his wooden video. I was quite impressed. He'd sort of this animated sort of manga videos. Yeah, no, I was quite impressed. I just messaged him and he just put, "Oh, thank you, bro," or something, and just sent a heart back. So it's quite brief what we say, but yeah, I suppose we're sort of living separate lives now, and I suppose with everything going on, it just makes it a bit difficult, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Dan, I'd like to thank you so much for giving me some time today. It's deeply appreciated. I think it's going to be incredibly interesting for people to read about. But before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add, whether it be about Sidekick, whether it be any stories with Tay, or just anything in general that you'd think's worth adding?
No, I mean that's great. No, it's been a pleasure talking to you, James. No, thank you so much.